guys, welcome back to another episode of Cork, Cleaver, and Shot Glass. I am so excited to show you what we have in store today. We have taken one of the most popular trends on the internet recently and made it gourmet. But before we get into that content, we have a few very important people that we have to thank. So just hold on for a few more moments. I know you want to see the episode, but first, let's thank these sponsors. Thank you to The Cottage. Thank you to Coca-Cola. Thank you to Eagle Distributing. Thank you to Allen Energy Group. Thank you to Remington Suites Hotel and Spa, Karen and Cassidy Phillips, Polyak Group at Morgan Stanley, and Alex and Elizabeth Kennedy. Thank you guys so much for everything that you do. Without you, we wouldn't be able to bring this awesome content on PrizeCast to everyone out there. So guys, give them a big round of applause in the comment section and let's get into it. All right, guys, I hope you are excited for some really cool content today. We made you wait long enough. So we're gonna jump right into the goodness. Today we have Peter Lyons of Lyons Pride Coffee with us to help us make a delicious Dalgona 2 ways. So, Peter, we're gonna jump straight into those questions. Are you ready, sir?
I am ready. Woo, 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 woo. What do we got?
I love that energy. So, Peter, I may have already introduced you, but nobody introduces you like yourself. So tell us who you are and what it is that you do.
All right, my name is Peter Lyons, born and raised here in the Shreveport, Bossier area. I have been doing coffee professionally for 21 years out in Los Angeles. The last 3 years I've been here. I came back to open a coffee roastery, and I'll be opening soon the Lyons Den, serving Lyons Pride coffee. Our roastery is going to be off Uri Drive, and the first cafe we will do will be on downtown Shreveport.
You said something really interesting. You've been doing coffee for 21 years, Peter. Can you tell us where that coffee journey began and how you got into roasting for yourself? Like, how did you start Lyons Pride Coffee?
Totally. So there's two aspects of this story. The passion for coffee came with my connection with my dad, Charlton, who's now up in Memphis, born and raised here. And he and I would spend time on the weekends having coffee milk, which we all know is what? A lot of sugar, a little milk, and just enough coffee to make it tan. I'd take my silly putty and I'd press it into the newspaper and stretch out the faces. But that was a real instrumental bonding time about just connectivity as into who I was. Years later, when I left Shreveport in '98, it was going into Los Angeles with a couple of people from Centenary, and they were looking for somebody to kind of like balance out rent because it was so expensive. I went on a wing and a prayer. I found that the Southern hospitality that I had was ideal for the LA market because everybody is very LA in LA. But I was so authentic with the way we talk to each other, the way we embrace one another, with the way we communicate. And I just thrived. And that led then to starting to roast for Whole Foods Market in about 2006. And I did that for several years. And then I moved into the Specialty Coffee Association and started doing more really technical science, professional things. And then that led me, when I wanted to move out on my own, to move back here and come back to my roots.
So we don't really need to ask, how coffee can bring people together. You've done a very good job of surmising that. So we're gonna get into the part that everybody is really looking forward to, making the Dalgona coffee, right? So before we do that though, I am like a beginner coffee drinker, right? And I'm trying to look for a few tips and tricks to really level up my coffee game, right? We're gonna give these people a full set of skills before they leave here today. So do you have any tips and tricks that I can use at home?
Yeah, so I have some really kind of fun, simple things. If you enjoy that Starbucks experience or a cafe experience where you're looking for that cappuccino or that latte or a coffee hybrid, and you don't want to spend that money, let me just go over here. I have a test kitchen to my right. We're going to move over there. Let me just heat up some milk. I want to show you something. And I didn't buy any of this, but I will show you a couple of things that you can have. I'm just going to microwave. I'll do a little bit of half and half for about 30 seconds.
Okay. So what does microwaving the half and half do?
So what we're going to do is I'm going to put that in the French press, and I'm going to aerate the French press to give you kind of that cafe experience of a nice, thick, frothy coffee, like the topping on a cappuccino, or the cream that you would use in a latte. So what I want to do is just...
Oh, that sounds so good, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy. So I just have a small little French press. Now, you could use, this is a whisk that uses like for salad dressing. You could use this. You don't have to buy anything. You can shake it in a Tupperware. I'm just pouring this in here, and I'm going to use the filter and so forth on this. And I'm just going to pump that several times to increase the air incorporation of that half and half.
I'm over here taking notes because I want to remember this.
I mean, it's so easy. So I've brewed coffee already in my Clever dripper. I'm going to dispense my coffee, and then we're just going to top that. I mean, it is that easy. I'm pouring my thick foam. And here you have a beautiful beverage that is of cafe quality. You can just see here the difference between the coffee and the cream, and incorporate that, and you'll get a beautiful latte, almost cappuccino. I make my coffee at home a little bit stronger, so I can do this when I need that little decadence in the afternoon.
Well, that sounds really, really great, Peter. I like almost smell it now. I'm very jealous of your coffee, but I'm gonna have to try this at home now. So we've done a little bit of a shorthand class, some tips and tricks to level up our coffee game at home. But now we have to give people what they're really here for, which is leveling up their Dalgona coffees and making it gourmet. But before we do that, people have to know how to make the basic Dalgona meringue, crispy, fluffy, velvety goodness. So we're just gonna drop a quick little video right in here that's gonna give you a little instruction on how to do that. So this is Steven, or rather, Steven's hands. It doesn't matter. But before we start making this whipped Dalgona goodness, we have to give ourselves a little affirmation. You are important. You matter. This Dalgona recipe will not destroy you. Okay, now let's get out our ingredients. First, you need a receptacle to mix your Dalgona in. This cup is right here is what I'm going to use. It has measurements on the side, but that doesn't matter. Next, you're going to need to get your instant coffee. I'm using a little Don Valles. It doesn't matter what instant coffee you get, just as long as it is instant and it dissolves super quickly. Then you're going to get your utensils to mix it, whether it's a fork or a baby whisk, or like I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to use an electric hand mixer by KitchenAid because I am not built for that kind of struggle. Okay, next you're going to have to get out your brown sugar, and finally your cup of water. There are two other ingredients that you'll need here, but we'll get to that later. The original recipe calls for 2 parts of each ingredient. However, here I'm going to double that recipe so I can have a little bit of that Dalgona mixture later so that I can use it to make my version of our gourmet drink. So I'm going to put in 4 tablespoons of that instant coffee, 4 tablespoons of that light brown sugar, and then 4 tablespoons of water. Next, we're going to get that mixture going with the hand mixer. It's going to take somewhere between 1 and 3 minutes just to get that nice and thick, velvety, smooth, and slick texture that we're looking for. So just be patient, but this is going to take a lot less time than if you were going to whip it with a fork or perhaps with that baby whisk. All right, there is that texture we have been looking for. Oh my God, it looks so good. Now we're gonna wanna go ahead and get our receptacle. I'm gonna use a small mason jar here, and I'm gonna scoop in a couple pieces of ice and then top that with some milk. Once we have that filled to our desired level with milk, then we're gonna top that with that delicious Dalgona mixture. Just get a nice helping in there. And there you go, that's your Dalgona. Now, I've already tried this just with the Dalgona whip mixture floating on top, but you're actually supposed to mix that down into the drink. So I'm going to give that a good little stir until it's well combined. Time for a little sippy sip. That is delicious. All right, now back to the video. So Peter, we're gonna just kind of make these drinks together. I'm gonna explain what I'm gonna be doing on my side. You're gonna be explaining what you're gonna be doing on your side, and let's get into it. So Peter, how about we let you go first? What does it take to make your Gourmet Dalgona drink?
So I researched and used 4 or 5 different coffees and methods using the traditional recipe, 1:1:1. Instant coffee, sugar, and water. And what I found was, for my personal palate, just Peter's palate, it was too sweet and too intense for me. So what I did is I came back and I used the same ratio, because I wanted it to be an easy recipe. I used 1 portion of brown sugar instead of white sugar, 1 portion of instant coffee, and I'm using an espresso instant coffee. I found it less metallic and a little bit more well-rounded and nutty. And I'm using 1 portion of water. Now when we talk about portions, just so that y'all can have an idea back at home, these were all the scoops that I had in my house. It won't matter which one you're using as long as it's exactly the same. So for technical purposes, I'm going to say 1 tablespoon. We're going to make equal parts. I have 1 part brown sugar, I have 1 part coffee, and I have 1 part water. And we're going to blend that all together. Now luckily, this takes about 4 to 5 minutes of blending, but what I've done is blended it together. Let me just pull that out of the refrigerator. Yeah, I'm a little bit sneaky. And I'm gonna dollop this out in a small container so you can see how frothy it gets. That's what it looks like. Now I take that same mixture and I'm going to add in a separate container some 2 portions of heavy whipping cream and 1 portion of cocoa with a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. The reason I wanted to do that was to balance out the roughness of the instant coffee, but highlight the woodiness of some of the other espresso components to that. So let me get that for you. That looks like this. I've whipped it all together. This is just the espresso and the vanilla. I'm going to add my 1 portion of cocoa, and I'm going to take a tablespoon of my coffee and add to that. And then I'm just going to slowly fold this in. This makes a component that I think is more like a chocolate mousse and is just delectable. It can be used on several different things. I'll look at the efficiency in my coffee beverage, not the complexity, despite what this recipe sounds like. I'm just going to whip it all together in a larger container, and then we'll make the cocktail. So here's my cocktail. My cocktail is kind of a chocolate-covered orange concept. I'm not a huge sweet fan, so what I like is the flavors to kind of accentuate everything. So I'm taking my shaker, I'm going to fill it up with ice. I'm going to add 1.5 ounces of Cointreau, 1.5 ounces of vodka, 2 ounces of the same coffee concentrate that I made a few hours ago. And I'm going to take a tablespoon of my chocolate Doler recipe that I've created. I'm going to shake this about 40 times so that we really chill it. What number is that?
You have shaken it definitely 40 times at this point.
I have shaken it 40 times. Let me get my cup. I want to pour this in here. I do it about half full. And then for me, I add a little bit of cold soda water. I do that because I want a lighter, refreshing beverage with the humidity and the heat in the South. I want something that's great, but just not as heavy. So this comes out being a wonderful chocolate-covered orange spritzer. Just enough coffee, just enough sweetness. I find it to be a wonderful balance. Am I allowed to drink this on camera?
That sounds so good, Peter. I need that in my life right now. I'm gonna have to make that as soon as I get time today. Okay, so we have your drink, and what is your drink? Tell us what the name of it is.
So I call this Orange You Glad It's Not Dalgona. I just find the original recipe that is an internet sensation is fun. It just might be a little too sweet and a little too overpowering for my taste. I also make a virgin version of this that uses the orange juice and no liquor at all. So between the orange juice and the sparkling water and just enough coffee and chocolate mixture, it's really refreshing, but you don't have to have alcohol to make it better.
Well, Peter, that sounds
But
amazing.
you know me.
No, that sounds amazing. Like, I love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much for making this drink with us today. Guys, before we go, we're gonna give Peter just a few seconds. Do you want to leave the crowd with any words of encouragement, any Peter Lyons spirit before we sign out today?
Yes, I just encourage you to always explore the unknown. I think in your culinary pursuits, in your beverage pursuits, and your relationships pursuits, to be open-minded and allow the force of the universe to come in and to really just be present and just learn. Life is all about learning and increasing our wisdom through patience and understanding, and we'll all get along better.
Oh, that's beautiful, Peter. Well, we can't beat that, guys. I won't even finish this out. I'm just gonna sign us out here today, guys. So remember that every day at noon during the week, we are going to be doing a broadcast of one of our Prize Cast shows at noon by our Prize Fest page. And if you cannot tune in live with us at noon, remember that all of our episodes are on YouTube at our Prize Cast YouTube page. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and definitely turn on that notification bell so that you will never miss an episode of Prize Cast. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you, of course, to Peter Lyons of Lyons Pride Coffee. And you guys have an amazing week. See ya.
Thank you, Stephen.